I'm Jethro Jones from Transformative Principal, a proud member of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to right now. The opinions expressed are those of the individual hosts. Make sure you check out the other great podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com. And get ready because the learning begins in 3, 2, 1.
Support for this episode of the House of EdTech podcast comes from my awesome supporters. If you'd like to become an awesome supporter, go to chrisnessy.com/awesome. Also, from Casey Bell and Shake Up Learning. Later in this episode, you will learn all about Casey's online Google certification courses. Welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. I am your host, Chris Nesi. The House of EdTech explores how technology is changing the way teachers teach and the impact that technology is having in education. I discuss technology that is changing our classrooms and schools, and I share tools and tips that you can hear today and use tomorrow. You're going to hear the stories of teachers, leaders, and creators just like you. The purpose? Whether you use it or not, technology is changing the way you teach and how your students learn. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time of day you're listening to this, welcome to the House of EdTech podcast. As always, my name is Chris Nesi, and I am ready to take you on a wonderful adventure in the world of education, technology, and other parts unknown and in between. If this is the first time you're listening, hey, you could not have picked a better episode, because this is episode 111, which means I apologize for the first 110. And speaking of episode 110, that was a great crossover episode with Matt and Casey from the Google Teacher Tribe. And I know that some of you might be listening for the second time, and you may be here because you enjoyed that conversation. So welcome to the House of EdTech community. I'm very excited to have you here. In this episode, I have my EdTech Thought, and I am going to answer the question sort of, did you realize that you are the Dorothy of EdTech? That'll become more clear in just a little while. My EdTech recommendation, of course, I'm going to be talking about 3 elementary school level iOS apps. And I've got the featured content where we're going to talk about growing your EdTech skills during the upcoming, or maybe you're in the middle of it, summer vacation. And of course, we've got the House of EdTech VIP. But first, before we get into the segments, I have a huge shout out for JP Prezavento. Hey, congratulations to JP for launching your new podcast. JP's podcast is called The Bits and Bytes of Education. JP sent in a promo that I'm going to play for you right now, and then obviously stick around, don't go anywhere. I will tell you where you can find The Bits and Bytes of Education podcast. So take it away, JP.
Hi, House of EdTech listeners. I'm JP Prezavento, the host of the Bits and Bytes of Education podcast, a brand new bi-weekly show that shares snack-sized ideas, interviews, and resources about teaching, learning, and technology integration. When you finish listening to this episode of the House of EdTech, head over to jpprez.com, that's jpprezz.com, to hear the Bits and Bytes of Education podcast with the EdTech Minute, What I'm Learning, and a featured conversation with educators who are innovating in their spaces.
Thank you so much, JP. JP has 2 episodes that are published as I'm recording this episode, so make sure you go over to jpprez.com, give those 2 episodes a listen, subscribe to the podcast, and of course, show him some podcast love, rate and review it, shout him out on Twitter. Couldn't be more prouder of you, JP, and of course, if you have any questions about podcasting, you know where to find me, and I'm happy to hook you up with the 411. Speaking of the 411 and information that comes out on a fairly regular basis, did you know that I recently launched an Amazon Echo skill? You can add the House of EdTech 60-sec rec to your Amazon Flash briefings, and you will literally get a 60-second podcast from me Monday through Friday. So far, the response has been outstanding since I launched this on April 30th. To add the skill, you need to go to chrisnessy.com/ALEXA, and I'm not going to say her name because there's one right here on my desk, and I don't want to talk to her right now. I've also recently updated the skill. Prior to me updating it, it would play the last 5 flash briefings, and I got some feedback from listeners like you, and I am sorry, but I have fixed the issue of having the last 5 play, and hopefully in the next couple of days it will only play 1. So whatever the most recent one is, that's what you'll get, 1 per day. There were some people who were having issues with it playing the last 5, so I have cleared that up. And if you go to chrisnessy.com/ALEXA, you can add it through your Amazon account, and it'll take you right there. You can add the flash briefing, or obviously on your Amazon Smart app on your mobile device of choice, you can go in and you can search for the House of EdTech and House of EdTech 60-Sec Rec to add it to your flash briefings and get 60 seconds of me 5 days a week. So there you go. Make sure you check out the skill. That's all the banter I have here at the top of the episode. Let us dive right into this episode's EdTech Thought. This episode's EdTech Thought is not my own thought, but I recently read a blog post and I reached out to the author, and she has allowed me to share her blog post here on the House of EdTech, and I think it makes a great EdTech Thought. So first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you to Penny Christensen. She is an e-learning specialist, and you can connect with her on Twitter at Pen63. That's PEN 63, the number 6, the number 3. And her website is hotlunchtray.com. And Penny recently wrote a blog post titled, "Surprise! Someone already thinks you are the tech coach." Here we go. There has always been a tech coach at every school in America. That person may not have a fancy title, an extra planning period, and most likely not even extra pay. However, there has been a tech coach in every school in America. And chances are, if you do not know who that person might be, well, it could be you. The informal tech coach. In school buildings, teachers quickly identify peers who can help with certain tasks. And one of the first people identified is a tech coach, a fellow teacher who is not only capable, but helpful with the available technology, who happily helps another teacher because to do so is to help more students by extension. That's you. Sometimes the informal title is more of a compliment than one might realize. No one compelled you to help others. No one gave you an extra duty to complete. You do it out of passion. Embrace being the influencer. A natural enthusiasm for teaching and technology might propel you to the role of tech coach for your school. But what does that mean? Right now, it might not mean any difference in pay or title, but it is meaningful. You can provide assistance to many teachers and therefore reach more students than otherwise possible from your single classroom. That's awesome. While it does mean more work, it also means showing leadership skills, being a problem solver, and having the room to offer solutions to building district leaders that others do not have the opportunity to do. It also means you can exert your influence. You could turn your school onto a new tool that you might think is worthwhile. You could be the person at the school to create or support movements. This is helpful to other teachers since you are their expert support, and helpful to them since you learn fewer programs. Use your powers for good. You might be surprised how becoming the teacher who helps other teachers elevates you in the view of your building leadership. Make sure that you use that power wisely when the time comes. First, there's nothing wrong with asking your principal for this to be a full-time job. Just be prepared for either answer. Sorry, I can't. Right now, most schools would have a hard time doing this financially. Teachers need to be justified by the students they teach, not the teachers. So, have another request in your back pocket. If the principal cannot make this a full-time job, can you have 2 extra planning periods? Could you have an extended day contract? Could you have more technology in your classroom? You get the idea. Your principal is likely to say yes to the smaller request, and now she or he has you identified for that position if something makes it possible. Okay, sure. If this happens, lucky you. Honestly, if that happens, you should be giving us advice on how to do that. Second, and especially if you are given something in exchange for your leadership and technology at your school, some teachers may be jealous. Your media specialist might feel threatened. The best thing to do is honestly address how much time it is taking you to help other teachers, and that the extra money, time, technology, and help from your principal makes it easier to make that sacrifice. When others hear you are still having more than you get sometimes, that helps them not to be so envious of your position. Make certain to be clear so as not to create overlap in jobs. And remember that any power you gain does not necessarily come at the cost of another. You are both working to make your school better. We know who you are at your school, you tech coaches. You hope that you gain the recognition you deserve soon. But until then, keep building your teachers up and making your school a better place. Thank you to Penny. That's our EdTech Thought. And now it's time for this episode's House of EdTech recommendation. And as I said, I have 3 elementary level apps and tools. So these are 3 iOS apps to add to your Apple-equipped elementary school classroom. First up is Teach Me Kindergarten. Teach Me Kindergarten contains all the basic skills students learn in kindergarten in one easy app. Kids practice spelling, letter writing, sight words, addition, subtraction, and more. Parents or teachers can easily view progress. Students earn virtual coins for their work, which they can use to purchase virtual rewards. Teach Me Kindergarten is not a free app. It is $1.99, and there will be a link in the show notes. Next up is Story Creator. Though it doesn't focus on any common core skills, Story Creator is a fun, creative app for elementary students. Kids create their own storybooks using photos from their device or the included illustrations. They can share their stories easily by emailing them from within the app. And Story Creator is free, so check it out. Have your students check it out. There will be a link in the show notes out at chrisnessy.com/111. And the last app that I'd like to recommend is called News-O-Matic. This is a great app for teachers who want to include current events in their elementary classroom. News-O-Matic delivers 5 kid-friendly news stories to readers each day. Plus, teachers can opt in to receive an email containing Common Core aligned lesson plans to go along with the stories. All the articles that are available can be made available at multiple reading levels, and they do offer a free trial, so there is a bit of a subscription model to this. And again, all the information will be linked to News-O-Matic out in the show notes for this episode. So if you've used any of these 3 apps, whether it's Teach Me Kindergarten, Story Creator, or News-O-Matic, please share your experiences by commenting on the show notes for this episode at chrisnessy.com/111. And that's my EdTech recommendation. All right, now it's time for the featured content of this episode, which is growing your EdTech skills during the summer. So, what does this look like? Well, first, I'm going to talk about some stuff about what you can do during the summer, and then I have some people who sent in some feedback to share what they're doing over the summer during vacation time, and at the very end of this featured segment, I do have some opportunities that you might be interested in taking advantage of this summer to, again, continue to grow your EdTech skills. So as I look here at my notes, what I wrote down is read and watch, make, try, and do. So for reading and watching. We could be reading books, and we should be reading books professionally. There are any number of books that are available out there. If you have checked out the Amazon Skill, the flash briefing for the House of EdTech, this past week, here at the end of May 2018, I recommended a book each day that could certainly help you grow professionally. If you're interested in checking out those books, you can go to chrisnessy.com/books. But you want to read over the summer. Read the EdTech blogs, read the books. I'll be honest, I don't think EdTech books that talk about specific tools or apps really have any value. If you find a book or know of books that talk about solid pedagogy and effective technology integration, those are the books that you want to get. Don't pick up texts that rely heavily on recommending specific tools. I mean, even if I think about this podcast, if we go back to early episodes, there are things that I've recommended that don't exist anymore. So, time marches on. Go to YouTube. YouTube is the best non-human teacher that we have. You can learn anything on YouTube. There screenshots of apps, workflow, people walking you through tutorials on how to use different pieces of software. If there's a piece of software or something you want to do, an app, a program, a website, a lot of companies put tutorial videos available in their help section. So don't be afraid. If you're listening to this podcast, you shouldn't be afraid of technology in the first place. But you want to go and watch videos. That is another great way to get comfortable using tech. You can be watching a video and setting up your account, or watching a video and working with coding or working with manipulatives or some other type of separate physical EdTech tool, or if you're doing robotics or anything with STEM. Utilize books, articles, and YouTube. And that's what I'm kind of thinking about here when it comes to reading and walking. Yeah, walking. Do you like to cook Chinese food? The next thing I have is make. Consider making a blog, making a website, documenting your progress, or sharing your learning that relates to EdTech. If there's something you want to add, blog about it, or, Periscope about it, or make a podcast to document your learning that really can share your journey and share your story. You don't necessarily have to be learning how to use something and then make tutorials to teach other people. People can learn simply by watching you and maybe learning from your mistakes. It's kind of like teaching. We want kids to learn from failure, document our own journey and our own learning with something new that we're trying. So again, that could be done by making a blog, a website, a podcast, doing stories on Instagram, or, going live on Periscope to talk about something and taking people's questions, or, looking to talk to people. Try that. And speaking of try, when you have the time here in the summer, now is a great time to try new tools. Here's the number one benefit to trying things in the summer. There is no pressure. Oftentimes, I will find something on a Saturday, or I'll be looking around for something on a Sunday, and I'll find something really cool, and I want to turn around and use it on Monday. But I haven't really had time to play with it, or there is a lot of pressure. Why would we put undue pressure on ourselves during the school year to automatically try a new tool? In the last 6 years for me, being in and pulling right from the EdTech Thought, being the unofficial tech guy in my high school, I've had lots of teachers come to me and say, "Hey, Ness, I want to use XYZ tool." "Okay, that's great. When do you want to use it?" "Oh, this Friday when I'm getting observed." And I look at people like, "No, you don't want to do it then. Let's learn it. Let's try it. Save it. Have your supervisor or your administrator come in another time to see how you use the tool. Don't use something for the first time when you're getting observed." Last time I checked, we don't get observed in the summer. So that's a great time to try, a coding website, or bring home some of the supplies from your classroom and try the robotics or the coding. Play around with it then. Play around with your own kids. You can all learn together. you can actually enjoy it and have fun. And there is zero pressure to try something new in the summer. The worst time to try something is September, because everything is new. The kids are new. The parents are new. You might have new administrators. You might have new rules and regulations and policies and procedures. And then when the thing that you really want to try doesn't work or doesn't go so well, hey, you're going to automatically maybe shove it to the side and say, that didn't work. I don't have time for it anymore. So summer is a great time to try something new. And the last thing I have here is do. I really think that as I look back at these bullet points, they all relate to doing something. Whatever path you choose, you want to do something this summer. Pick one thing that you maybe tried this year or you never got to, and really dedicate some time to doing it over the summer. And then maybe when you come back in August or September for your new school year, you'll be ready to go, and you might hit the ground running. You might not. But hey, that's okay. Don't be afraid to try. So what are you doing? Let's take a look at some of the feedback I got, because I put this out to Twitter and the House of EdTech Facebook group. So first I want to shout out Christina McKee, and she shared this in the House of EdTech Facebook group, which I only mention here on the episode. So if you're not a member, head over to chrisnessy.com/Facebook, which I'm actually recording this episode live into it. So I'm going to take a second to say hello to Joe Juba and Randall Black and Alice Lacoste, who, now that she's here and I think maybe she's watching it, she might hear herself in a second. But I digress. So Christina McKee, she scours the internet for new tech for her classroom during the summer. She spent last summer building and working with HyperDocs, and she intends to spend this summer working with Sway and Adobe Spark. So those are some great tools that are going to make her classroom a much more engaging place. And, this year she played with HyperDocs, or actually as she wrote it, she did that last summer and then used HyperDocs this year. So Christina, hopefully you can share some feedback and let us know how that went with HyperDocs this year in your school and your classroom. Maybe also let us know what you're going to be doing to learn Sway and Adobe Spark over the summer. Coming in via Telegram, which is my Voxer alternative, coming in now is Alice Lacoste. And I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly, but hey, as a public address announcer, I've got a 50-50 shot. So Alice sent this in via Telegram.
Hi, Chris. I'm Alice Lacoste. I teach at Centerville Academy in Centerville, Mississippi, and that's in the southwestern corner of the state. It's extremely hot right now. I teach high school English, dual enrollment English, and 9th grade computers. I've been teaching for about 8 years, and I'm also the school's technology coordinator. During the summer, I like to find new things that I can use in my classes to make them more engaging and more exciting for the students. Last summer, I became a Google Certified Teacher Level 1, and this summer I hope to complete Level 2 certification. I'm also working to create some HyperDocs for my classes, and I would like to learn more about augmented reality and virtual reality. In July, I'll be attending a workshop at Ole Miss for dual writing instruction, and also need to complete some of Richard Burns' PD courses that I've purchased. Of course, I'm listening to as much education podcast as possible, so I'm learning every day. Keep up the great work. Thanks for House of EdTech.
And thank you, Alice. First, thank you for sending that in. I love to get the audio feedback and things that I can just play, because it's easier if we hear your voice, and, it doesn't always have to be me. It's kind of like being in the classroom. So thank you so much. And you have a lot on your plate for this summer between, HyperDocs and the backlog of courses from Richard Byrne. And of course, he puts out great content. So again, any courses that you can take over the summer, those are great opportunities. And speaking of opportunities, I do have a couple that I will be sharing before I close out the featured segment. But thank you again, Alice, for sending that in. I do appreciate it. And don't be a stranger. And any of you who are listening, you are welcome to send in audio feedback at any time. Just go to chrisnessy.com/feedback or connect with me on Voxer or connect with me on Telegram. If you do want to check out Telegram, go to telegram.org, and my username there is @ChrisNessy, Nesi. Next up, we got some feedback from Kyle Wilcox, longtime listener of the program, and he has been preparing Google Classroom training to use with his teachers this summer, and he would actually love some feedback. So I will be linking to the courses in the show notes. So Kyle, in order to learn, he's providing opportunities for the teachers he works with, powered by Google Classroom, and I will link to it out at chrisnessy.com/111. And he's currently promoting 2 workshops, and I believe there are some Google Slides on the page. I did look at it briefly before recording this episode, so definitely go check that out and see what Kyle is offering to the teachers in his district. But maybe, again, if we go back to the EdTech Thought for this episode, maybe you are the obviously official tech coach, but you might be the unofficial tech coach. Maybe create a Google course and help other teachers over the summer. Sure, that's going to take work, and maybe you're not paid for that, but maybe in teaching others, you will learn how to do something that much better. And last up, we have some feedback from a good friend of the program, my buddy from Utah, Derek Larson. Take it away, buddy.
Hey, everybody, Derek Larson from EdTech Babel. And a previous guest on House of EdTech, Chris. I love summertime because it allows me to take some time for me to do what I need to do to prepare academically for getting stuff done. One of the things I do, I have a kind of a threefold approach. First approach is face-to-face. I love to attend conferences. Whether that last year I went to ISTE for the first time, it was amazing. I also love to attend local conferences. We have a great one here in Southern Utah called the Utah Rural Schools Association Conference, which is amazing. It's like a diamond in the rough. If you're in the Cedar City area in July, it's great to attend. Lots of excellent content. So that's the first approach. I love going to whatever conferences I can, meeting with people face-to-face. 2, I like to take some time on Twitter, on Voxer, on social media to kind of dig in on blogs and kind of go through very personal, if you will, but with people, but not quite as face-to-face, right? Communicating, collaborating with others, but not in a face-to-face setting, a little more asynchronous when it fits with timeline. And the third thing I like to do is really dig in and do some actual, specific PD, where I work with a company kind of like Kite Learning, for example, and I'll go through a course or 2 and kind of really dig in deep and learn more about a specific tool or a specific content area. So that's kind of what I do, some face-to-face, some kind of, social media, online kind of stuff, and then sometimes even like a course, an online course from Kite. All right, man. Good luck, folks. Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much, Derek. Always great to hear from you. And again, echoing that theme of actually doing something, whether it's, again, taking courses, going out to, Kite Learning, or, again, wherever you can pick up and take a course or attend a conference over these summer months, or even choosing, again, one specific tool like Christina and taking time here over the summer to dive into it. And now, as Derek alluded to, and I've hinted at, obviously there are a number of opportunities. There's conferences all over the country and things you can attend and things you can sign up for. So a couple of my strong recommendations are, first, Dan Gallagher, awesome supporter of the show and longtime listener. He's an instructional technology coach in West Windsor, Plainsboro. He works with Stacy Lindis, good friend of mine, again, longtime fan of the show. And Dan is stepping out of his comfort zone, and he's doing something this year where he is going to be offering free learning with him over the summer, powered by Google Classroom. I'm looking at a blog post he recently put out on his website, which is gallaghertech.edublogs.org, and I'll have a link to this out in the show notes at chrisnessy.com/111. And he's going to be offering and posting basically assignments in a specific Google Classroom, which, again, from his blog post, you can get that. And he's going to run this from June 15th through August 15th. Everything is optional. Everything is free. Consider joining. and even just to check it out and see how somebody is utilizing Google Classroom from this point of view. The activities he's going to include are going to be examples of how to incorporate technology into instruction, and Dan is going to do this with the hope that a teacher may find inspiration for their subject and content and design learning activities for their students. So he's going to be posting 2 to 3 quote-unquote assignments per week, and you can learn about these with Dan and alongside other teachers. So definitely check that out. And again, there'll be a link in the show notes on how you can get into the Google Classroom and spend the summer virtually with Dan Gallagher. This next one, now at the beginning of the episode, I mentioned that Casey Bell and Shake Up Learning sponsored this episode, and I need to talk about what Casey is offering this summer. So keep in mind, again, the theme of this is what we're going to be learning in the summer, and summer is the perfect time to work on things like your Google certification goals. And Casey Bell of ShakeUpLearning.com, and of course, the Google Teacher Tribe podcast is your go-to Google certification expert. Becoming Google certified can be intimidating, and the content can be overwhelming. Through her online, self-paced courses, Casey will literally walk you through everything you need to know to become Google certified. She's currently offering 3 online courses, and they're open for limited enrollment. She's offering the Google Certified Level 1, Level 2, and the Become a Google Certified Trainer course. These courses are fully loaded with video-based lessons and hands-on learning with Casey. Here's the catch, though. These courses will only be open for enrollment for a limited time. It's self-paced, but you can only get into them, again, for a short period of time, and the end of that enrollment period is coming up on June 10th, 2018, at midnight Central Standard Time, and they will not open again until November. So if you want to take some time over the summer to get your Google certifications, Casey Bell is the person you want to do that with, and you can learn more about the certifications and the individual courses or bundling them all together by visiting chrisnessy.com/getGoogleCertified. And thank you to Casey Bell and everything she does for the EdTech community through everything she does with Shake Up Learning and, of course, the Google Teacher Tribe podcast. Another opportunity, you can go and check out summerpd.com. This is from the mind of Nate Nagel and Courtney Kofeld, 2 former guests of the podcast. And Summer PD was created for teachers by teachers. Nate and Courtney understand what it is like to be in a classroom because, hey, they do it every day. Teaching is a demanding job that requires a vast skill set that is always changing. With all the different directions that you as a teacher can be pulled in, it is hard to keep up to date with the newest technology. Every teacher, hey, we know this. We know that you can't use a new instructional tool without learning how it works yourself first. You might even still be able to use the promo code House of EdTech, no spaces, and save $10 on their 10-course bundle because SummerPD, easy for me to say, SummerPD.com is a former sponsor of the podcast, but obviously being friends with Nate and Courtney, I still love what they're doing, and SummerPD.com is still available. So go check that out, and maybe you can still use my old promo code House of EdTech and save yourself $10 on their 10-course bundle. And the last opportunity that I have that you can check out here over the summer is the hashtag Hive Summit. The Hive Summit is an upcoming free 14-day virtual educational conference that's going to be starting on August 1st. So for some of you, that's the beginning of your school year, somewhere in there. And for those of us not in those places, it's a great thing to do before school starts up again in September. The call to the Hive is strong. It brings some of the best and brightest minds together to do what bees do best, work hard for something sweet. For more information about the Hive Summit, you can go to hivesummit.org, and everything I've talked about here in this featured segment will, of course, be mentioned and linked out in the show notes at chrisnessy.com/111. And if there's something you're doing over the summer that you'd like to share with me and obviously the audience here, please tweet about it, come over, join the Facebook group, and we can again join in the learning together, or you can comment out in the show notes and start the conversation and continue the conversation right there. So whatever you're doing this summer, even if you are not doing anything professional and you're going to take, your 8 to 10 weeks to be personally relaxed and go on vacation and spend time with your friends and your family, that is perfectly okay. Contrary to, I think there was a little skirmish on Twitter this week between what you should be doing with your summer and what quote unquote good teachers do. Hey, live your life, take care of number one. And if that's relaxing your mind and going on vacation and hanging out with your friends, hey, rock out, come back refreshed and recharged. And for some of us, it's a blend of both. I know what that is for me, attending conferences, going on vacation, spending time with the boys, being a real person. I love education. I love technology, but I can't wait for school to end so I can spend some time in the garage of EdTech, because there are some projects that are just itching for me to build. So there are definitely some things I'll be learning that way that'll just help me grow as a person. So share what you're doing. Enjoy your summer. And that's the featured content. So let's head over to the House of EdTech VIP. This episode's House of EdTech VIP is Sarah Hickel. Sarah is the Director of Student Learning and Innovation for Mishawaka Schools in Indiana. She's on Twitter at SJHickle, Hickle. Sarah has a passion for whole child instruction and is involved in the upcoming Whole Child Workshop 2018, where you can join educators and community partners across Indiana in exploring a whole child approach to education that addresses students' comprehensive needs to learn and thrive. For more information about this specific event, you can go to wholechildin.com. And of course, have to connect with Sarah. So head over to Twitter, add her to your following. She is again at SJHickle, Hickle. Congratulations, Sarah. You are the House of EdTech VIP. Thank you for checking out this episode of the House of EdTech. Again, this has been episode 111. Thank you again to Casey Bell for sponsoring this episode. And also thank you to Penny Christensen for allowing me to share your perspective via your awesome blog and your blog post. Make sure you go out and you connect with Penny. Also, special happy birthday shout out to Robin Fessler from the House of EdTech Facebook group. Happy birthday, Robin. Hope you have a fantastic day. Or had a fantastic day. Depends on when you listen to this. Keep the conversation going for this episode. I would love to connect with you and hear your thoughts on the information and resources. Just head out to chrisnessy.com/111. You can send me feedback by going to chrisnessy.com/feedback. Now, if you enjoy the House of EdTech podcast, the biggest favor you can do for me is to go tell somebody else about the show. In your district, Twitter, on Instagram. You know where you like to share stuff. Share the podcast there. If you share it on social media, use the hashtag HouseOfEdTech, and that'll help me see it and know that you shared it. The other thing you can do is also become an awesome supporter. Many thanks to Eric Kurtz of ControlAltAchieve.com, Dan Gallagher, Peggy George of Classroom 2.0 Live, Jen Giffen from the Shooks and GIF podcast, Mark Grindell, Jeff Herb from InstructionalTechTalk.com, Mike Messner, JP Presevento from the aforementioned Bits and Bytes of Education podcast. Again, go check that out at jpprez.com. Scott Titmus from right here in New Jersey, the Flipgrid extraordinaire. And Brent Warner from edtech.tv. Thank you guys for all of your support. If you are interested in supporting the podcast, go over to chrisnessy.com/awesome. The next episode of the House of EdTech is going to be episode 112, and that's going to come out on June 17th, 2018, where I'm going to share, wait for it, my hashtag #NotAtISTE 2018 keynote. That's right, if you didn't know, me, Chris Nesi, I am keynoting Not at ISTE. Now you might be thinking, how is there a keynote for Not at ISTE? Well, I'm making it up. I have a podcast, I have a microphone, I'm going to make up a keynote. Because back in December of 2017, I proclaimed that I would give the Not at ISTE keynote. And I can't wait to share this with you because, like a real in-person keynote, I've been planning this for quite some time. Until next time, thank you for learning with me, and remember, using technology isn't difficult. Just give it a try. The House of EdTech is a proud member of Voice Ed Radio. Voice Ed Radio. Your voice is right here. For more great content, go to voiceed.ca. The House of EdTech is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. The Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more, go to edupodcastnetwork.com. Psst. Hey, it's me. I'm still here again, 2 episodes in a row. So last episode, there were a bunch of you who dropped lightning bolts all over Twitter. And this time, I came up with a more fun challenge for those of you who are dedicated to get to the end. So I want you to go out to Twitter and post a link to your favorite cover, so from YouTube, find covers of the song Yesterday by the Beatles. Post a link to YouTube, tag me at Mr. Nessie, and use the hashtag House of EdTech, and let's see how many cool covers of Yesterday we can flood the internet with. Talk to you guys next time.